Hey guys, what's up? That's the wrong way. That's the way we want. Why is it so close? Oh, come on now. Oh, come on now. Well, nothing like live to expose all the technical difficulties, right? I switched out the tripod here because I thought the head on the other one was too loose. This one was way too loose. It felt like it was strong enough. It's not strong enough. Put it back to the other one. Please stand by while the monkeys fix the broadcast. Oh, come on. There we go. Gosh, this is way too zoomed in. What in the absolute world? There we go. Jeez. Ta-da! My goodness. Thanks for sticking around and showing up today. So I've gone through just about everything of this collection tour. What I haven't finished up with is the Wakandans and the Tonys. So today will be Wakandans and Tonys. It's not much of. So keep them all the way up there on the top shelf. I have to use the pinchers even to get them down. I wasn't able to get the display shelf or case or posing stand with the UV light for the Black Panther. So I just left that up there. So I won't be able to discuss that. Which is crying shame. He only looks really good with that light on. So if I can find the video here, we can catch up on the chat. There we are. We already showed this figure, but since he's kind of the one that kicks off this group, might as well start off with him again. Conchata, Chadwick Boseman, really neat figure. So when he came out, this was for Captain America Civil War, he did not come with a head sculpt. So if you wanted a head sculpt, you had to purchase through third party. And I don't remember who it is that made that head sculpt, but it's a great looking head sculpt. It really is. He looks fantastic. And of course, we see him without his helmet on in the movie. You know, the big scene in the, I don't know if you call it a tunnel or an underpass of the road where he takes off his helmet and somebody says, Your Majesty. I think it's Captain America. I don't remember. And so it wasn't like there wasn't a scene where he was just as this, because there most certainly was. There most certainly was. And it was a very cool scene. He takes off his helmet and boom, there he is. You have no question about who he was. So at the time, the king, I think, was thought to still be alive by everybody else. I don't know. So I don't think they would have called him Your Highness the King at that point. But I think his dad was, I don't know if his dad was dead at that point or not. I don't remember. But obviously that's why he was chasing down the Winter Soldier. So it's a cool suit. Really neat suit. They did a great job recreating from the movie. And a lot of detail, a lot of neat things to look at. A lot of things to draw your eyes to different areas of the suit. It's a busy suit. And so with the purchase of the third-party head sculpt, I can put his helmet in his hand. And I don't remember whether or not it came with hands that don't have the nails out, but nonetheless, why would you not want to display him with his nails, right? So this was the first Black Panther figure that was released part of Captain America Civil War with a third-party head sculpt, which I think looks great. Toy Mafia, how's it going, man? CBS Sci-Fi, hello, I am well, thank you. I hope you all are. From the sunny UK, there we go, Ian, you got it, man. Welcome today. I've still not heard about my Punisher War Machine. I might just give them a call and say, hey, where's my Punisher War Machine? So, from there, we'll go to Takaka. And it took me a while to remember who was who, Takaka or T'Challa. And it dawned on me that K comes before L. So Takaka with a K, T'Challa with an L. And so this is Takaka. And the designer of this suit, and I don't remember if it was Ryan Meanderding or not, Meanderding, it's a very difficult last name, stated that literally they took this suit and just turned it gold. And that's how this suit came about. Now, the helmet is a little different on this, but the suit is identical. And that was a creation in the Black Panther movie when they were making it. So you're looking at an identical suit, only gold trimmed versus the silver trimmed. And then they put the clothing layer on top of that. So the exact same suit is T'Chaka, only gold. And a little bit different head sculpt. The helmet's just a little bit different. And so he looks even better. The black and gold, in my opinion, is very shiny. The silver, they didn't make shiny. It's very utilitarian. But the gold is very dressy, very, very, very pretty. And no head sculpt. We don't get to see the king without his helmet. And this is T'Chaka. It was an easy make, obviously, for Hot Toys. Just cast a new head sculpt or helmet, paint the trim gold, and craft the clothing to go around it. So they lucked into that. You know, it's nice when they don't have to do as much work to bring a figure to life or a character to life. And that's all that was required to make T'Chaka. So it was well enough. And of course I was going to get him. There's no question about that. So in the second appearance in a movie that Black Panther was, Black Panther, the Black Panther movie. He gets this new suit from Sheree, and it's just a very boring suit unless it's lit up. I've got that plugged in up there, and I didn't want to have to rewire the whole thing to bring it down here to show you how it lights up. But whenever I turn on the remote here, which turns on and off the lights that you see back there, the Hall of Armor and the lights around them, it turns him on as well. And it was just going to be too much of a hassle to bring him down off the shelf. But just as this, I have to say, it's pretty boring. He almost looks just like a regular suit, nothing fancy at all. So what they've done is they've printed onto this a UV sensitive paint that brings out all the little details that we see whenever his suit gets charged up with a kinetically powered suit that would store up the energy, which he could then transfer and use to his advantage. They did something new with the feet on this one. So the other feet weren't articulated. The toes weren't. And on this one, they put these little articulated toes on there, which is kind of neat. Looks kind of weird. Made his feet look big. Don't know if they're bigger than they should be. Your foot, normally, your foot is the distance between your wrist and your elbow. That's how long your foot is. So we can put his foot against this forearm. And yeah, I would say it's a big foot. It's bigger than it should be. So the foot's a little out of proportion. It shouldn't be that long. So I don't know if it was like an afterthought and they threw this on there after they already had the foot crafted to give him the articulation, but the foot is actually out of scale, which is funny because when this first figure came out, I thought the legs were out of scale and the length of them. And so you'll notice between these two figures side by side, Black Panther's butt and Civil War Black Panther's butt, his butt is higher, his legs are longer than here. And so as when I first received this figure, I was like, something looks wrong, his legs look too short. And then when they made this one, they made his legs longer, but they made his feet bigger. So he also appears to be out of proportion in that regards. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Look at him also. This one appears to have a thicker chest than this one as well. Definitely two different figure bodies that they use, not the same one. Shoulder's actually larger than this one, than that one. It's funny because it's supposed to be the same person, same time frame more or less. He's returning to Wakanda after being gone. That's where this movie takes place. So it's very interesting. Anyhow, like I said, just looking at him, just as this, he's not really that impressive. He's just blah. But you turn on that UV light, holy smokes. He lights right up the entire suit, except for the helmet, hands, and feet. Just get this, I don't know if it's the Wakandan script that's on there, but it's just the entire thing just really just lights up well. It's really beautiful with it lit up. So he's a welcome addition because he's neat, but without the lights on him, he's just mediocre at best. So then continuing on with T'Challa, Hot Toys in their infinite wisdom made this throne, and showed us a figure on it, which they never made. So you get the throne, and there was no Hot Toys created figure for it. Yeah, they'd say put him in his battle uniform on it, but this is what they showed us. So this was made by a third-party company. I don't remember who, and it looks really good. They did a great job with the outfit. He fits on here nicely, unlike Thanos' throne, where he doesn't really fit as well. But T'Challa fits on here nicely. And again, the Hot Toys is like, oh, you can put Killmonger on here, or Takaka, or whomever you want. And I'm like, well, this is who you showed us in it. What's up with this? So I don't know why they do and don't do what it is that they do in regards to releasing certain figures. But this throne by itself, without this character, isn't as effective, in my opinion, as him in this outfit that we see him wearing. And I was really pleased I found this third-party manufacturer is making it, and he looks amazing. One of the things I did, I think I've switched out the beads, and I don't remember what these were called, but one of the other beads that somebody was wearing, made by Hot Toys, I don't think was as nice, so I put the Hot Toys beads on here. I don't remember, but I don't think these are the beads. I think these are the Hot Toys beads, or maybe the other beads are these beads. I don't remember, but there was something about the beads that I didn't much care for on one of these figures. So the beads have been switched around somewhere on one of them. Don't remember which or whom. How many came from Sheree, the beads. I don't remember. But I had to do the same thing with the time device that Cable wore. So the time device that Cable wore that they gave to Deadpool, made by Hot Toys, isn't as nice as the third-party time device that came with the Cable figure. So since the Cable figure, the time device really isn't that prominent in my display, I put the Hot Toys time device on the Cable figure, and I put the third-party time device, which looks great, on the Deadpool character, because I've got him actually dialing it in and using it, premiering the piece on his wrist. So sometimes I'll move things around because of it looking better in one area from the other. Thank you, Fred. Thank you. Yeah, I my camera crapped out on me, and so I bought a new camera, and it is much better. Certainly is. I was using a Galaxy S5 that I bought in 2014. So now I've S20 Ultra, much better camera. Robert, how you doing, man? No, these have been up on the very top of so you got the Hall of Armor. I've got the War Machine Hall of Armor. Right on top of that is where you would see the Black Panther display. He's over here with the Avengers, is where this one sits, and I think he looks great holding his neck as well too. This one has neck problems. I don't know. Sheree, I'd had ordered Killmonger, and by the time he finally came around to coming out, was when my wife had her medical problems, and I didn't have any money to be buying any figures at that point. So I ended up losing out on my deposit for Killmonger, and didn't get him. And he's another one of those that now is on the list of figures to get one day. So here's Cherie, and she looks great, and which is T'Challa's sister, and pretty much the inventor of a lot of the technology that they use in Wakanda for him and her. And when Tony was stepping down more or less, or stepping aside. I thought they would pass the mantle to Sheree. I thought she would have been good for it because she's extremely intelligent and creative, and had also been building her nanotechnology alongside the same time that Tony was building his. And she's got the seamless elbows, so I've tried not to pose her with her elbows bent. So I don't want to damage that. But I was really happy to get her these secondary characters. You know, you have your main character in the movie, and this was, like I said, this one was an easy fix. There's no reason why they couldn't make this. All they had to do is paint this gold. So, well, of course, they're going to throw this figure out and craft a head sculpt. But this, they had to build the entire figure. And secondary characters are so often not made, and it's difficult for them to sell them. So I'm very happy that we have her. We didn't get any of the other substantial characters from the movie, and Killmonger was the only other one, and he of course had a very major role in the movie. But she's our only secondary character really that we have. Again, like I said, King T'Chaka came only because, in my opinion, Hot Toys only made him because all they had to do was paint him gold and make the cloth. Very minimal investment, very minimal design time in putting him together, where she had to be crafted from the ground up. And she looks great. I'm really pleased with my Cherie. And Eric Killmonger is one, obviously, on the list now that will be tracked down one of these days in that regards. So like I said, I'm still waiting for my email from Big Bad Toy Store that they want me to pay for my War Machine Punisher, and then haven't even gotten that. So it only takes, for instance, if they were to send me the email today, I wouldn't see it for 2 weeks. And that's because I choose the $4 shipping. I don't pay the $20 or whatever to get it shipped to me in 3 days. It's just not worth it. So I'm like just sticking on whatever slow truck happens to be passing through. But now I'm like craving a figure. I don't remember what my last figure was. I think one of the Spider-Man was my last figure. I think my negative suit. I don't remember what my last figure was. I'm craving a figure. So yeah, this is Cherie, and she looks great. You could either pose her with or without her little kitty paws. I forget what they call those. But of course, I figured we got to have her with these on. And I would love to get the rest of the figures. I don't remember if there was a third-party release of one of his bodyguards. I like that in, which movie was it when she was facing off against, who was it? Was it Black Widow? I don't remember. And T'Challa's like, oh, that would be interesting to watch this go down, you know, because they're complete badasses. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Black Widow that she squared off against. It's like, oh, this will be interesting to see. And that was from the Captain America Civil War, which is where we're seeing her from. And it's crying shame, you know, when characters are in many movies as such and they still don't get a figure. It's like Maria Hill. I'm so happy that they made her Maria Hill. She was in, I don't even know how many movies, at least 3, maybe more. And, you know, for her to at least get a figure was quite a blessing, or a nod to her. You know, she exists, right? Once you get a figure, then you've actually accomplished something, I guess. You know, if you don't have a figure of yourself made, then you didn't make it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to say. So here's Cherie. Of course, she had to be brought in to the collection with the Wakandans naturally. And she looks great, and I'm glad to have her. My super glue got knocked over here. Definitely have to get this cleaned up, don't want to. Some of the tools you have to have owning Hot Toys, super glue is one of them. No doubt about it. Best super glue I found, personally, I get from Harbor Freight Tools. It's the bottle, you can reuse the bottle for months without it all drying up and becoming unable to be opened. That's this right here, by the way. That's the best super glue in my opinion. It's easy to pop the top off, and then get right to use. And then put the top back on, and it's good to go. I mean, for months. Gotta have your super glue. So really all we're left with now are the Tonys. The Tonys. So we'll get the Tonys over here. Could you swap pens? Yeah, I think you can. I don't see why not. Hot Toys figure. Yeah, he's got the right ball joint there. I don't see why not. This one I think came with a head sculpt, where of course that one did not. But since I've already got the head sculpt on that, I did not put a head sculpt on this one. Just went with the helmet. Oh, and on this figure you could put different eyes in it. So you could either have the silver eyes or you could have his eyes. And I went with the silver eyes. So that's why the little piece is different here. You would just swap this out and you could put his eyes in there instead of the silver eyes. I went with the silver eyes. Doctor Who. It's funny, interesting. I learned this last week about Doctor Who. The original 263 episodes, or however many it was, I don't remember, had been lost. BBC recorded over the original episodes. They didn't realize back in the 60s that anybody would ever be wanting to watch these shows ever again. It just wasn't any of their forethought. So they recorded over them all. And they've spent years trying to find them. And I think they've, by going to private collections and different television stations and people who were involved in the show, they found like most of them, except for like 90 some episodes, are still missing from the original series of Doctor Who. It's really interesting. You look back on that and you're like, God, really? You would do that? You would just record right over it? And they've done the same thing with by our standards, not HD, but by their standards HD, the HD landing of the first man on the moon and walking on the moon, recorded right over, and the first live appearance of the Beatles on television, recorded right over. It's so funny, looking back in time, and it's like, really, you recorded right over? What? So it's really interesting. Flash Gordon figures. You definitely need your super glue, man, no doubt about it. %. It's exact same outfit, and that was, like I said, designed even by the Marvel team when they were making the movie. I don't remember if it was Ryan that made. I'm pretty sure it's Ryan Manderling that was involved in the design of the Takaka suit and the T'Challa suit. And he literally says, all I did was take the suit that we made for T'Challa, put the gold on it, put the clothes on it, and Hot Toys did the exact same thing. So this is probably my coolest Tony figure, I'd have to say. And he's not necessarily screen accurate in regards to how he would be in this scene, but there's no question about what's going on here. So this is when he was testing out the Mark 42 prehensile suit to see if it would attach to him and fly to him. And it's a pretty funny scene when the pieces all come at him. I don't think he had this on his head. Matter of fact, I know for a fact he didn't have this on his head, but I decided to display that as well. But there should be more pieces here and there and less pieces there and here in regards to recreating the actual scene where the Mark 42 suit flies to him and attaches onto him. And it's one of those things where I thought, gosh, maybe I should try to make him a little more accurate to the scene. But this is how they provided the suit to you. And you can either display him with the pieces on, or you can display him without the pieces and have him with the little portable headpiece on without any of these. So that was the two ways you could display him. But of course, I'm going to display him like this with the base and everything. Also, interestingly enough, these bases are not to scale. So this would be much, much, much bigger. And when he's in his, what we call the three position pose, where fist is down on one knee, the other leg up, and he pretty much encompasses the entire piece at that point. So what you should be looking at in scale wise, by the way, is this piece right here. I don't know if you can see which part of it is that I'm pointing at, but this piece right here is the piece that should be the size that Tony is when he's on his superhero landing pose, the three position pose on his knee and his fist in the ground. And that area, he would be on this. He could be in that three position pose and then retract into the ground. Just on this. This piece doesn't retract. This inner circle does. And it's the same size inner circle that we see in the Avengers Tower when he lands and then walks off and his suit is removed from him as he's walking on Avengers. At that point, it was Stark Tower. So you see how big that ring is for that Mark 6 gantry. You know, it's this big around. That's how big it should be here. It should be that big. What he retracts down into the ground isn't a little bitty thing that's 3 feet across. It's a good 6 feet across. And so this is way out of scale in that regards. But it works. I mean, already, this is just a huge piece in the first place. And this would be glass, if I remember correctly, instead of this brown. I think this was supposed to be glass. I don't remember, to tell you the truth. But if you were to make this true to scale, 1/6 scale, God, you'd be looking at least this big in that regards. So, and then this, of course, is the base set. All of the Hall of Armor, well, I don't remember if all of them came this way or not, but most of them came with this. This is the only one that lights up. All of them are designed to be lit up if you wished to, but this one actually has a row of LED lights in it, a little switch here in the back, and you could turn it on and off in that manner with batteries. All the other ones have an empty compartment, no electronics wired into it. I've seen people have bashed theirs and they put red and different colors inside of here as well. But this one actually is the only one that lit up, was this specific one. So this is Tony Mark 42. I think it's called the Mech Test or something. I don't remember what it was actually called. But this one I think is probably, in my opinion, the coolest Tony that I have. You don't put the robes on T'Challa. He comes just like this. This is how, or I mean T'Chaka. Oh, you're talking about these robes? T'Chaka comes. Both of these. This figure came like this, so it wasn't clothing that goes onto a body. It came as a full-on figure, already dressed. So the third-party company that made this provided him done. T'Challa came just like this, and T'Chaka the same thing. T'Chaka came just like this. So this was a full-on body. It wasn't just clothing that you had to put onto a figure. When this company made it, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was. When they made him full out, ready to be posed. And then, of course, this was made by Hot Toys. The throne was. So I didn't have to put anything on there and do anything to it. All I did, like I said, was swap out the beads. I don't remember whose beads was whom's. I think it was her beads that I put on this figure. I don't remember, but there's something about somebody's beads that I didn't like, and so I've moved all the beads about. And there's a set of beads someplace. They're in a drawer that won't be used because they just don't look right. Something was wrong with one of the sets of beads, and I don't remember who it was that made it. Other than that, this guy looks great. It came just like that. I had Tony in his Monaco racing outfit, and when I got the Nano Gear combat suit, I decided to use that body instead for the body that I was. Okay, so there was another body that I had that it came with, I think, an accessory set. He had on black pants and a black shirt, and I took those clothes off and put him into the Monaco race suit that we see in Iron Man 2. And he has the arc reactor on his chest. When the Nano Combat suit came out, I decided to use that body for the Nano Combat suit. And that suit had started dissolving. And you guys had made an excellent idea to use that as a battle damage suit. There's a company out there that makes the suits again, and I'm thinking about tracking that down. I doubt that'll happen, unfortunately. Just don't have the disposable income at my hands anymore that I had at one point. But I don't remember where I put that suit at. But the suit literally started falling apart. And I found a video where somebody had put a protector onto those types of fake leather or pleather or vinyl, whatever it is that you want to call it, to keep them from falling apart. And I wish I had seen that beforehand. But research that, and you'll see that somebody recommends putting on, I don't remember what it was he put on. I think it was almost like maybe a paint or something he applied to those pieces to keep them from dissolving apart. But all the black pleather on that racing suit from Monaco literally just dissolved right off. If I don't know where I put it at right now, I would show it to you. But I've talked about it within the last few weeks when I discovered that. It really upset me. So let's show you the Nano Combat suit. And there were a couple of companies that made this. And again, it was first announced, and I missed it by accident. I just, you know how it is. Gosh, when you're dropping several $100s on a figure, it's difficult to get every single one that comes out every single week in that regard. So I missed them. So I've had to buy him secondarily. And I don't remember whether this was the one that I really wanted originally or not, but it works. It's definitely the one that I ended up wanting. And he looks great. But this is the body from another Tony workshop accessory, something other. Had like a black t-shirt and black pants. And you can see there's an arc reactor actually on the chest here. And so I was going to, it came with the Mark 50 arc reactor, and I was going to put that over there. And I may or may not, couldn't tell you exactly what my intentions actually ever will finally end up being. But this is the Mark 50. We see this at the beginning of Infinity War, and when the Black Order starts showing up there, and he, taps and becomes Iron Man, more or less. So there is that. And he looks great. And like I said, there were two different companies that made them, and one looked better than the other. And I think this was the one that I wanted. I don't remember. I mean, I don't see any problem with this one. So it must have been the one that I truthfully wanted all along. But there was one that was better than the other. Same thing with Mantis. There's two companies out there. Well, now Hot Toys is showing off theirs. There's two companies out there that were making a Mantis. The second one, the one that I didn't much care for because I don't like how they did it, has been released. And the one that I thought had done a better job on the prototype hasn't even been released yet. So I'm still waiting for that. So I guess that's the good and bad of it. Sometimes choosing the one over the other, I may never get that Mantis. That Mantis may never show up. Bad thing about third-party companies. It's like Mystique. I ordered that Mystique figure only because it was a cool, unique figure, and then they never made it. The company always had setbacks and excuses and reasons for not being able to create the figure the way that they showed it, and then they totally made a different figure altogether, and I was like, I have no interest in that. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for that very unique Mystique figure. And I don't have any other X-Men. I suppose you could say Deadpool counts as an X-Man. Not really. X-Force, right? Trainee. X-Men trainee. But I don't have any other X-Men. That so she would have been my one and only X-Man. And this is, excuse me, I'll take a drink. When they time traveled back to 2012 in Endgame, this was the Avengers outfit that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or S.H.I.E.L.D., not sure how you would say that. I guess it was S.H.I.E.L.D. outfit that he would have been worn. And this is also made by a third-party company. Now, each one of these is just a little bit bigger or differently sized than the other, which looks funny then when I have them all standing up, because obviously Tony Stark isn't differently sized by that much. But this was an older figure, I think, like made in 2010 or 2012, and this was made by a third-party company. One thing I didn't like about this was I thought they made the hair color too light on this. So this is not a Hot Toys. This is a third-party company. This is actually a Hot Toys figure, but it was before they rescaled him. So, for instance, comparing him next to the who should we compare him next to? The new scaled, new released Mark V diecast, you'll see this huge size difference. So, move him over here. So here's the Mark V diecast, right? And this was a Tony from that same movie scene, more or less. Same movie, if you will. Not this outfit, but the body that's underneath this, made by Hot Toys. So, obviously there's not that much metal underneath his foot to make him another whole head taller. So, they were rescaling the figures when they went to their diecast of the first 7 figures, which they've only done 2 through 7 so far. But he is so much shorter than when you compare him to this third-party company's Tony Stark from Endgame. There's a lot closer scalability there. It's more believable. It's believable that the difference here in size might be because of what's under the feet or his helmet on top of his head. So it's really interesting to see or wonder what's going to happen with this. Are they going to redo Tony's? I doubt it. I doubt it. But that is what we end up with. So, and you can make your figures taller. You can put little leg extensions onto them and stretch them out, or swap out the whole body if you wish to use taller figures. A lot of times, unless, like I said, unless they're standing next to each other, which I happen to have them posed right next to each other currently, you don't really notice the size difference. So that ends up being the Tony's situation. And then the only other figure I don't think we've talked about over all this, we may have, I don't remember. I think this is the last figure that I've not shown you guys, and I might have shown her to you. And it's my Pepper. I think I might have talked about her when we did the Mark 9 in the very first week. And that was because the only way to get the Mark 9 was to buy the Pepper Pots. And I'll tell you, I have no problem buying Pepper Pots. I thought Pepper was great. And this figure has got some years on it. I don't remember what year it came out. 2015 or 16, I don't remember. But we need a new Pepper. Well, that's a fact. And I would love to see a new Pepper Potts. I'd love to see a Pepper Potts from in-game, that much of a time frame difference. I'd love to see that. So she came with either barefoot or in high heels. And so you could put her barefoot, which was the scene from Iron Man 3. So it's supposed to be the Iron Man 3 Pepper. And I've got her holding one of the many head sculpts. A lot of our helmets, a lot of the figures came with, back in the day, I mean, you'd get figures of 2-3 helmets, you know, and then you end up with a whole slew of Mark 7 helmets and Mark 6 helmets. Just every time you get a figure, there'd be a helmet included in it. Heck, nowadays, you don't get very many accessories at all in the figures. The figures with a lot of accessories now are rare compared to before. They were just throwing all sorts of figures in them all over the place. So this is a Hot Toys Pepper Potts. I think she looks great. It's not necessarily a great creation of her, or recreation of her, or portrayal of her. There's no question about who it is, obviously. And like I said, it's time for a new Pepper. These figure stands here will literally just snap right apart from the strength of the little wire stand here. So as many times I would just run some Scotch tape around it just to hold it together to keep it from snapping these open. I'll just snap them right open on these oval case figure display stand. So that's why that is there. But that's Pepper, and I believe that's every single figure in my collection. I think we've gone through them all 200 plus figures that I own. And like I said, you'll see these guys, they'll be talking about how they got a $20,000 Hot Toy figure, and God bless them, I'm happy that they have that. I don't like broadcasting how much really all this costs. I put it on the title here. It'll be removed later when I edit it, probably this evening or tomorrow. But it's easy to count real quick. $200, $300 on average per piece, 60,000 bucks. I mean, there's a car sitting here, a couple cars, 3 cars maybe, if you were to think about it. So that's what my Hot Toys collection has amassed to. Pepper Sheree, Pepper Gamora. You know, I really enjoy getting the female body figures. So much so, the Phicen figures are voluptuous and sensual, and you know, very built with large breasts and large hips, and that's fine, that's great. But a lot of the actresses that we get in the movies are not built as such. So it's nice whenever Hot Toys makes a figure and they're built the way that they should, or close enough to how they should be built. And that's what's difficult when you start switching these out with Phicen bodies is you end up getting a more voluptuous figure than what the figure really is. So Phicen really doesn't make a body size as such, and most of the actresses are not voluptuously um, built. I don't know how really else to say that. So it's nice to get these figures that are built the way that they should. You know, Pepper and Shuri and Maria Hill, for instance, Black Widow. You know, they're properly proportioned to some degree in that regards, and so that's nice to have. They look great as Pfizer figures too, though, but these are more accurate to who the actress is as such. Anne Hathaway made it. That'd be nice. But there's so many figures that just never get built, and it's a crying shame. And so many figures Hot Toys teases us with, which don't get built, which is really upsetting because you get so excited. You're like, yeah, they're gonna make a Yellow Jacket. Yeah, they're gonna make the Black Order, and then nothing, absolutely zip, and that's just a crying shame. It really is, um, because you know it doesn't cost them pennies on the dollar to make them in the first place. So I don't know why the decisions are made the way that they are made. We've discussed them before about how, you know, they'll make figures that sit there on the shelf for months or even years that people just don't buy, like Electro from Amazing Spider-Man, and the Chitauri Soldiers, and let's see, what's another one that sat? Silver Centurion, Mark 33, sat forever on the shelves. Mark 17 Heartbreaker, sat forever on the shelves. And I love my Mark 17 Heartbreaker, one of my favorite figures, easily one of the top 10. And it's a crying shame to see them just sit and sit and sit and sit and sit and sit and sit. And what makes it even more difficult is when you buy them when they first come out, you're paying full retail price on them. When they sit on the shelf for a year or so, gosh, you end up getting them for 50%. And you're like, wow, I got kind of ripped off there. But maybe that has something to do with their decision as to what figures are going to make, what figures are going to release. And but it sure does suck when they make this beautiful Vulture, and you know for a fact that'll never get made, unfortunately. So then you start having to turn to third-party companies to make these figures, like T'Challa on the throne, and the Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming, Michael Keaton's character, by a third-party company. And the bad thing is third-party companies is hit or miss in quality. You know, we watched Hot Toys quality improve within the last 10 years. They've gone from being a great figure to being an amazing, absolutely amazing figure. And the head sculpts are true to life in so many ways compared to when they first came out. I mean, this kind of looks like Gwyneth Paltrow, but if they were to make one today, it would be a dead-on Gwyneth. There'd be no question about it at that point. The way they're able to, you know, sculpt them and paint them is just amazing, and that's why I really want a new Pepper, because I want to see one that really looks like Pepper Potts instead of this is almost like an off-the-shelf head sculpt here. You know, I can see the resemblance to Gwyneth, but not like, you know, like Sheree, for instance, looks a lot like the character. And I'd love to have an Angela Bassett, you know, the mom. You know, again, talking about figures that just don't get made, don't even get teased to us, let alone the ones that tease us and don't make. But then there's the figures that really should be made. I'd love to have an Angela Bassett, you know, a mother figure for Black Panther. That'd be great. It's not going to happen. Hell, we can't even get an Ant-Man and Wasp. What in the hell is about that? What's it been, like 2 years now or so? Waiting on the Wasp? What in the hell? Of course, I've got the new Spider-Man on order. 2022 or something is when he's coming out. It's probably when I'll get mine. That's crazy. And the PS5 and a new Spider-Man video game was dropped. Announcement trailer for it the other day, which looks great. Gonna be a lot more Spider-Man in that. So I can't go wrong there. Hopefully Hot Toys will crank out every single video game Spider-Man that there is. I really want to see them all. I was hoping they would do like the ones that we've seen in that little miniature Hall of Armor, Spider Hall of Armor. I was hoping that they would do that. The Miguel 2099. I've seen some. Was it the Spirit Spider-Man? I think that's what it was. With the blue flame head sculpt. Oh my god, that would be amazing. Oh, that would be so amazing. Sheesh. So I hope they keep cranking out the Spider-Man. I really do. I hope that they would make the rest of the Iron Legion, but I think they're done. I think Hot Toys has decided it's just been too long. You know, no one's even there anymore. The whole movie series has ended, and it's just not going to happen. I was hoping that after the Mark 7 was released, we would start seeing the Iron Legion crank back up again as die-cast figures because a lot of them are based on the Mark 7. And we never got, I think it was the Mark 16 and the Mark 39, I think were the two we never received, Nightclub and the Undersea one, Jack, what's it called? I don't remember now, but it was Mark 39, the Undersea one. Those were very unique armors. We've never even seen those, but because they kind of stopped it with the release of the diecast figures, and they realized there was obviously a scale issue. And they even teased us that Jack was coming. Mark 27, Jack, I think is what he is. And showed him in a pictures with, no, not 27. What number was Jack? Forget now. Mark 28. But anyhow, they showed him in pictures of another figure that was coming out, which I think was the Mark 27. And he never happened. He's mostly a Mark 17 and a Mark 7. So I theorized, well, he didn't make him because they would crank out the Mark 17. It'd be an easy one to make. He's mostly the Mark 17. But Mark 17 sat on the shelf forever and people didn't buy him. Maybe that's why the Jack never got made. I've stated before that now that the Mark 7 diecast is out, the Mark 21 would be a simple paint, you know, a repaint, if you will. And it's my contention that if they release the Mark 21 diecast, then it's on. If they make a Mark 21 diecast, simple enough, paint it gold, no difference between the Mark 21 and the Mark 7. If they release a Mark 21 diecast, then it's on. The Iron Legion's coming. That's my opinion. Or Hall of Armor, or whatever you want to call them. Because later they turned them into the Iron Legion, the 5 pieces, which we only got one of those. But House Party Protocol, or whatever you want to call Marks 8 through 41, if they make the Mark 21 diecast, then it's on. In my opinion, it's on. We'll get the others, the 8 through 41, or whatever it is. But specifically, we're looking for Nightclub, which I think is 16, and I think it's 37, not 39, 37, which is the Undersea one. I forget what he called them. But that's the bad thing about this, is you end up with partial collections. Like they made a Tonto, Bonolo Ranger. So never got the Yellow Jacket. And you have to have a good guy and a bad guy. You have to have somebody to counter the reason of the character. So unless you're Superman, Superman doesn't need a counter. He's Superman. But Batman needs Joker, right? Superman, he really doesn't need an enemy. You can display Superman all day long by himself, and you don't have to have an enemy. Superman is Superman. Superman was not made to fight crime. Superman was not crafted in the time of need. He just was raised to believe in truth, justice, and the American way. He took it upon himself to be a superhero. Obviously, I believe Lex Luthor would be his arch nemesis, but you don't necessarily need a Lex figure to have a Superman. You know what I mean? But Batman, you kind of need a Joker. And if you don't have your arch enemy without the Yellow Jacket, Wasp, Ant-Man is almost, lost, more or less. Spider-Man needs his enemies too. So happy that company made the Venom. Oh my God. What an unbelievable piece. If you ever have a chance to chase the figure down, if you have any inkling leaning towards Spider-Man, you chase down that Venom. Sheesh. What an amazing piece. So this has been a short video. I really caught it all up. And there was a lot of 1/6 scale figures that were announced within the last week from different franchises. Uh, you'll see them on Big Bad Toy Store and other places. Some armor and some ninja suits and all sorts of really neat things have come out in the last week. Some female warriors. It's really cool. So it's nice to see everything cranking back up in that regards. But I'd like to get some of these hot toy figures, truthfully. And I want to get my War Machine Punisher delivered here. Really looking forward to that. Especially because I missed the Punisher from with my Netflix Daredevil. God, I wish I'd gotten that. It was just another one of those where I didn't have the money at the time, and I was like, I'm kind of on the fence here. Don't really know if I want it. And then, it's like, sheesh, I really had gotten it. So another one now that's on the list. Figures to chase down. So I'm really looking forward to that Punisher because I need to have a Punisher with my Daredevil. Daredevil's all by himself. He's got nobody, nothing. Just the Daredevil. He looks great. I got him sitting with Stan Lee. What do you do with Stan also? Stan can go anywhere. But so I have him with Daredevil. So I don't know what else. What else you guys got going on? Robert's been sharing everything he's doing. He's always busy. Kit bashing. Love hearing about your projects, Robert. Oh, the Eddie Brock Venom. That's another one I wish I'd ordered right from the movie, the Venom from the movie. I had every intention of doing it and just didn't have the money to knock it out, and ended up missing out on that. I really wished I'd gotten a hold of that. The movie's grown on me. I enjoyed the movie in the first place. Literally, after the third Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, where they totally destroyed Venom and they did a terrible job of Venom. I literally had theorized where they would make this fourth Spider-Man because Raimi had told us there were going to be 5 Spider-Man movies from that first Tobey Maguire. Third one was such a disappointment they didn't make the other 2. But I had theorized that we were going to get Venom in the 4th movie, and the 5th movie was going to have Carnage. And I'd said, we're going to find him in the Life Foundation. We're going to find him out in San Francisco. And I'm spouting this information like back in 2007 or something along then. And I was like, this is what's going to happen. This is where we're going to see it. This is going to be the next Spider-Man movie, etc., etc. And of course, it never happened. But it was nice to see that I wasn't far off in regards to how Venom ended up going. It ended up being the Life Foundation. It ended up being him out in San Francisco, etc. And they made the references to him working at the Daily Bugle and being angry at J. Jonah Jameson. And if you remember, that's where Eddie and Venom had their connection was against Spider-Man. And we kind of missed that in the Venom movie. That kind of wasn't talked on. So I don't know if they're going to give us like a backwards story along that line, and we're going to see a Tom Holland connection with Venom because the symbiote was already there at the Life Foundation. So maybe there's going to be a pre-Venom that's going to come out through a Tom Holland story. I don't have any idea. But you really need that. You need that connection with Spider-Man, that hatred for the two of them to be the anti-Spider-Man. Otherwise, it just really doesn't make sense. I mean, it does because they've shown us that all the Venoms, all the symbiotes that live on the planet, all resemble Venom. So, which he doesn't have to look like. He doesn't look like Spider-Man because he fused with Spider-Man, but he looks like Spider-Man or whatever, like Venom does, because they all look like that back on the planet. Which kind of goes along with Star Trek Deep Space Nine when Odo was in the beginning, they told us that he fabricated his face to resemble the scientist that found him, and that's why he looked the way that he did. But then when we find all the other shapeshifters or changelings or whatever they were called at the time, they all looked like Odo. And so somewhere the writers got confused where they're saying, well, the reason he looks like this is because that's how his creator, his scientist that found him looks, and he tried to mimic his face, and then all of a sudden we find out that all the Odos look like that. And so I think that story got screwed up. But you know, Venom has the white spider on his chest and all that because of his Spider-Man connection, and that's what we didn't see in the Venom movie. When Venom had from the beginning that, however, as Deadpool was telling his stories, we found Deadpool claim that he was part of the Secret Wars as well, and that he truthfully was the one that encountered the Venom symbiote first before Peter did. So the Venom symbiote kind of got touched by being in Wade Wilson's head, and he literally had to leave. He's like, "This is too crazy," and he split out of there. So sometimes the reference to Venom being as crazy as he is now is because he fused with Deadpool, which made him crazy. But then on the other side of the coin, in the Venom movie, they referenced the fact that he was crazy when he was back on the planet, and that he was kind of shunned for that. And I don't know how it works, but there's always just a little bit of a different, weird, interesting telling or story in regards to that with each different incarnation of these characters. And there's so many origination stories of Venom, so different yet still the same. And again, the new Venom movie is another telling of that. But the Venom from Spider-Man 3, oh, they destroyed that. Spider-Man 3 was just wrong in so many ways. So many ways. It was just a... I don't know what the hell happened there. I really don't know. I don't know why it ended up the way that it did. It's a crying shame. Right. The half Venom face head sculpt. Oh, Michelle. You know, I would love a Michelle figure. I really would. And I really wish that they would drop the MJ. I hate that. Just have her be freaking Michelle Johnson or whatever her name is. I've got no problem with him dating Michelle, falling in love with her, even marrying her if he feels so inclined. Knock it out. But it's not MJ. And that's what really just drives me crazy. And we talked about this maybe a week or so ago. If they want to use Mary Jane as her middle name, Michelle Mary Jane Johnson or whatever, you know, I could see that being why she is Mary Jane, but she was always Mary Jane. You know, her name was Mary Jane, and MJ became her nickname because of that. It wasn't Michelle. So I wish they would get off the fence and do one or the other. You know what I mean? Um, they're like riding this fence line of that. Oh, well, she's Michelle, but we're going to call her MJ, and she's so anti Mary Jane from the comics. Michelle is, you know, she's I don't even know where to even discuss all the differences between the two type of characters that Michelle is and Mary Jane is. They're just like two different sides of a page, you know, two totally different characters, not even similar. And I have no problem with Peter being with Michelle. I have no problem at all. I didn't have a problem with her being with Betty Bryan. I had a problem with her being with Gwen Stacy. Didn't have a problem with him being with Felicia Hardy. I don't care who he's with. I really don't. But she's not Mary Jane. That's what I think is the wrong thing to do. You know what I mean? That's just wrong. She's not Mary Jane. She's Michelle. Totally different person. And totally different person. I mean, totally different person. You know what I mean? Yeah, he sure did. Rene Auberjonois, I think is how to say his name. He did. He passed away. He was active in a lot of Star Trek too. You're crazy, man. You're crazy. Yeah, Pepper could have been called Cinnamon. Jeez. So I don't, I like I said, I embrace, understand, and enjoy and look forward to all the multiverse characters. I think the Spider Verse was amazing what they had done, and they're doing a Spider Verse 2. Um, so you know, and I want the Spider Verse characters. I want a Spider Noir. I want a Spider Ham. I've got the Spider Gwen on order. I got Miles Morales on order. I got the Peter B. Parker on order. I want a blonde hair, blue eyed Peter Parker from Spider Verse. Crank them out. And but I have no problem with that. Like through all their craziness, or hinting that Tom Holland's character is going to be bisexual or maybe even homosexual. And hey, wouldn't bother me, except he didn't necessarily act that way in any other movie per se as such. So why do we got to make that an issue? Who really truthfully cares? You know what I mean? Big freaking whoop. Um, and that's fine. If you're going to make an alternate universe character or a different Earth character, and this is how you would desire to build him, knock it out. Either he's going to be embraced or he's not going to be embraced. But don't change a mainline character, a character that was created with specific intent and specific thought process to make him be something that he was never in the first place. But if that was where he was from the beginning, go for it, man. Knock it out. Like I said, that movie, The one of the worlds, I think he was a homosexual in one of the worlds that he visited of all the different Earths in the multiverse in that movie, The One. Pretty interesting movie in regards to multiverses. Deadpool, and all of his multiverses, same thing, Essentially, in the Deadpool universes, whatever Marvel character there ever is, there's a Deadpool version of it. Wolverine and Black Panther and hell, Pepper Potts and Mary Jane even, and all of them are Deadpool in one Earth or another, and all the multiverses of the Deadpool. Deadpool is every single Marvel character. You can essentially take any Marvel character and turn them into Deadpool, and it'd be a Deadpool from one of the Deadpool Earths. So all the Marvel universes are out there. So there's that many different Deadpools and that many different Spider-Men, and continue on with it. It makes it fun and interesting. Different variations of it. I'm enjoying all my Spider-Man and look forward to many more of them, and all my Deadpools, and trying to create the different Deadpools. And I've said this before too. I would love to have a Deathstroke. Put him on the Deadpool shelf. Deathstroke was actually created first in the comic line, and Deadpool's a straight up knockoff. 100%. Marvel made Deadpool as a Deathstroke. And in my opinion, Deadpool would win in a fight between him and Deathstroke. Because Deadpool, you can't kill Deadpool. You can't kill him at all. Period. Cut his head off. He's still living. There's like a patchwork Deadpool where it's all the different pieces of Deadpool that became a Deadpool again. It's insane. So I thought Batman Nolan was good. Batman Michael Keaton was probably one of my favorite. You can't go wrong with Adam West Batman, of course, obviously. I didn't see any of the Affleck Batmans. I didn't see any of those movies. I've seen Aquaman. It's the only one I've seen. I didn't see any of them, and I want to. And one of these days, I imagine I will, but I just didn't see anyone. Mark 7. You can't go wrong with. The Diecast is even better, but you can't go wrong with the Mark 7. Mark 46 is a beautiful piece, especially all lit up. Homecoming Spidey, he was in all the movies. That suit is in all the Spider-Man appearances. Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Homecoming, and Far From Home. All 5 movies he's wearing that suit. So that Homecoming suit works in all those movies. You can put him in any one of those poses or appearances with the other characters, and he fits. He tells that same story because he's used that suit that was his main suit in all 5 of those movies, which is great. And I have 2 of those, and I at one point I had ordered the other 3 and had to cancel them. And that's because I wanted to be able to display him from all of those. So I've got, up here, the Civil War. Down here I've got the Homecoming. but I would like to have him in an in-game scene and have him in an Infinity War scene and have him in a Far From Home scene because he fit all of those. He really did. Same guy, same suit, all five movies. No difference at all in the five movies. That suit. Yeah, I see there's like a new Darth Vader episode 5. Darth Vader, right, has been pre-ordered, put up for pre-order. Terminator is a great looking figure, really is. Oh man, thank you. I don't remember who it was that gave me the QMX card. At the time, you asked not to be announced who you were, but thank you very much for that. And like I said, I would gladly announce every episode that I make, every video that I make. I would put you guys out there if you wish. Those of you who have contributed to me through Patreon with a donation or the figures or whatever, and the cards. Thank you for all of that, every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And like the Patreon account, just consider that a tip. You go to the restaurant, the waitress gives you your dinner, you throw a tip on the table. Sometimes you're guilted into thinking that you need to do that because she is only getting $2 an hour. Sometimes she's getting minimum wage, truthfully, $15 an hour. And you've been guilted into tipping her. So if you are, if you tip your waitress for good service, hey, throw me a tip too. If you enjoy what I'm doing, throw me $1 a month. Appreciate it. After the taxes and whatever else and blah, blah, blah that's taken out of that, it ends up being like 50 cents. But hey, it's just nice to know that you appreciate what I do that much that you're willing to throw $1 my way. And I would love that. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you that have supported me. I love my Captain Picard and my Patreon patrons. And I encourage you, if you feel so inclined, to sign up, do that. There's a link at every one of my videos that will take you right to Patreon so that you can subscribe to that. And like I said, $1 a month would mean so much. It's more of a heartfelt gesture. It means more to me that you've decided to do that than the actual monetary value. Come on, you really think 50 cents is going to make or break me a month? It's not. But it's nice to know that you guys are encouraging me to continue doing whatever it is that I do here for you and with you. So I just want to throw it out there. I've thought about the X-Men too. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to try to kit bash 2 more Deadpools. I think I want to try to do. Actually, I want to do 3 Deadpools. I want to do the total mouth gone Deadpool, and I want to do him in his, I don't know what you'd call him, his street clothes, or just the Ryan Reynolds with the regular before the mouth gone from X-Men Origins. And then, of course, I would like to also do a Ryan Reynolds before he's transformed into the Deadpool here in this universe. Also, where he's like the pizza delivery, the pizza delivery guy Deadpool. So I would like to do that. I'm really enjoying my Deadpools, and I knew very little about it from the comics. And when the movie came out, I just totally embraced him. And I played the video game, Deadpool video game, and so I enjoyed him. But I didn't know that much about Deadpool until the Deadpool movies came out, and I've embraced him totally. I love Deadpool. He's so doggone funny and so right on target for a anti-hero, if you will. Yeah, I think Toys R Us has picked up the mantle and run with it in regards to continuing on the X-Men figures. Judge Dredd, yeah, nice. So you've got a lot of the X-Men coming along. Yeah, I've seen those over the years come out, and some of them look really good. That young Magneto was really good. I had like a floating pieces that came with him. I thought that looked really nice. And so, along with the X Men, I've got the Juggernaut on order. Third party companies said they would make the Juggernaut. I've got Obviously, I have Colossus from Deadpool Colossus, which is different than the Colossus from the X-Men movies. He's more colossal than the Colossus that they had in the X-Men movies. You know, sometimes I look at the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, I'm like, what in the world were you thinking, dude, for real? And, you know, of the multiple timelines that were created from the X-Men, makes it so difficult to try to watch the movies because you don't know. It doesn't really tie up. In one of them, this Deadpool exists. In the other way of looking at him, he doesn't exist as this Deadpool, you know, and uh, it's and then when they start killing all the X-Men on top of that, you know, it just really bothers me. I hate whenever they kill a character. I mean, kill a character. It just doesn't make any sense to necessarily just kill your superheroes. You know what I mean? In the comics, they even joke, you're never really dead. When you're dead, they always find some way of bringing you back. It's very rare when they truthfully, full on, totally kill a character in Marvel Comics in that regard, especially a hero. They're normally not just ever just killed. And but the movies are like, oh yeah, kill that one and kill this one and knock that one off and let's not have that one anymore and we'll just kill these characters and kill all these X-Men and it's like, what in the world? It doesn't make any sense at all, you know? I understand why they kill Quicksilver from the Marvel Cinematic Universe because he was really a joint character, jointly owned. So we had X-Men Quicksilver in the X-Men universe, which is different than the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the time. And so they were like showcasing both of them at the same time, you know? And so I understand why they killed him there. But again, you know, why kill the character? And it's rare that a character doesn't get more than one movie. So Quicksilver in MCU, Hela, another one movie. Mickey Rourke, Whiplash, one movie. Most of them get multiple movies. So it's unfortunate when they don't. The majority of them are three picture deals, at least three. And they make great figures. Cyclops, Storm, Magneto. I've seen some of these beautiful, beautiful figures. Yeah, now that Fox is part of the Disney umbrella, it'd be nice to see all that merged together. Just that'd be great. I like how at the end of the Deadpool 2, he went and killed Deadpool from the X Men Origins. That was awesome. I thought that was great. I've not seen any of the television series of the Marvel series. I've watched like the first episode of Agents of Shield. I think I watched the first episode of Peggy Carter, but I don't think I've gone beyond any of that. Deadpool, Daredevil and Punisher. I watched those several episodes of those. Haven't watched all of them. Save on Mason, welcome, man. Really, they don't do multi-picture deals, huh? Ah, I see. I see. Mickey Rourke actually was very upset after doing Iron Man 2. He felt that he wasn't given the freedom as an actor that he needed to portray his figure, his character. And he actually left with a bad taste in his mouth. And then there was, who was it that played Rhodes in the very first movie? Terrence Phillip? I don't remember who it was. But he knew right off the bat that he wasn't going to be doing any of the others. I think they even told him that he wasn't their first choice for that, and they had planned on using Don Cheadle for that all along. So there's a little bit of bad blood there too, and I don't understand why guy that played Red Skull, forget his name, been in so many movies. Hugo Weaving had been in so many great movies, so many major characters. Agent Smith from Matrix and Elrond from Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh, he'll definitely be back. So when I seen the Red Skull, Soul Ghost, if you will, I was like, oh man, he's back. And then one of you guys are the ones that told me that that wasn't him. And that really caught me off guard that he didn't come back to finish the character. I mean, the Red Skull looks just like the Red Skull that he created, portrayed originally in Captain America: The First Avenger, but he didn't continue that, and that kind of I didn't expect that at all. Terrence Howard, thank you. Yeah, that was the first Rhodey, and I loved him as Rhodey. But he didn't continue on, and you've heard him discuss some things, and there seems to be a little bit of bad blood. Maybe I'm looking too much into that, but I know Mickey Rourke didn't enjoy his time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Don Cheadle definitely took the mantle, uh, took over portraying Rhodey. From my understanding, that was their intention all along, was to use Don Cheadle, and I guess he just wasn't available for the first movie. Maybe that might have been why Terrence felt a little bad blood about that. But I would love to have him. I would take a Terrence in an Air Force uniform. If I had a Terrence figure, I'd put him in a full on Lieutenant Colonel Air Force uniform. Hell yeah, put him right up there and have him be Rhodes. Wouldn't bother me one bit. Not at all. Wouldn't bother me one bit. Which Iron Man you talking about? Um, Grandiosa 86. Which one? Hugo Weaving had a three-picture deal, but Marvel took so long to put them in another movie. When they asked him to be in Infinity Wars, they were going to pay him the same amount that was on, I assume, the original contract. Oh yeah, that would be a back out for fact. So you don't think Chadwick Boseman will be back? Oh, that'd be crying shame. Yeah, I can see now why Hugo would walk. I mean, that would make sense, but it sucks. All of them. Well, an Iron Man figure nowadays is around 400 bucks. If you want to get a brand new Iron Man, they're about 400 bucks. I think Mark 7s are still available. I think there might be some Mark 43s that are still available, maybe Mark 50s that are still available for purchase brand new. And I think all of them are right around $400. When Iron Man first came out, they were about 200 bucks, and they were plastic figures. So, for instance, this guy, this Mark 5, was the original release Mark 5, plastic Iron Man figure, and I think when he was brand new, he was 200 bucks. Now I've made the head sculpt. He didn't come with the head sculpt, so that head sculpt is custom made by me. They re-released the figure as a diecast about 2 years ago now. I think is when they announced them, and he's rescaled to be a little more closer to screen accurate. Redesigned them, made a lot of changes and improvements, and I think he's around 400 bucks. Now he's no longer available brand new. If you wanted to buy him, you're going to have to buy him from somebody who already owns him, and I think he's selling for well over $400 now, somewhere between 500 and 800 bucks, I'd say easily on the Mark V diecast. So that's what they cost. So on the average now, the Iron Man figures new are about 400 bucks. They started off at about $200, and sometimes you can find some of the original plastic Iron Man figures still for about 200 bucks or so out there on eBay and whatever else. But if you're wanting a brand new one, going to be diecast, they're around 400 bucks now. To answer your question as to how much they cost, we're talking about this one, this Iron Man, this Tony Stark. Again, also, I think when he was brand new, I think he was 200 bucks for everything that he came with. I don't even. I think I've seen someone had made it remanufactured this piece as a I don't remember what they called it, but it was made by a third-party company, not Hot Toys. So you could get this Tony Stark, and I don't remember how much he was, but they, there really are no Tonys, more or less, that they're making right now. Hot Toys is making right now. They're not even really making the Iron Man figures currently, but this came with this whole setup. I think he was right around maybe a little over $200. I don't remember. So he was really inexpensive, and you had the different pieces. You could either display him with the Mark 42 pieces on him, or without, and have him just in regular clothes, regular arms and legs and boots. But I don't know how much he sells for now. Probably $400 if you were to buy him on eBay. I don't have any idea. Just a guess. I really don't know. Oh, these pieces are like museum quality. One of the things we were talking about with Pepper when she first came out in 2000 and I don't remember what it was, 15, I think. The quality was still growing in regards to things. Like the old Tonys, for instance. If you have one from the Iron Man 1 Tony, it really didn't look much like Robert Downey Jr. But then as things have gotten, they get down to, well, for instance, this isn't a Hot Toys head sculpt, but this gives you an idea. I mean, that really looks like Chadwick Boseman. I mean, there's no question about it. The artists have perfected their art so much so that they're able to sculpt out a piece that looks dead on like the actor or actress, like Sheree over here. Another great rendition. This is a Hot Toys. Another great recreation of an actress, and so that's what's really exciting about them. And that's the beautiful thing about 1/6 scale too, is the detail in 1/6 scale that you get that you don't get in 1/9 and 1/12 and the smaller pieces. The 1/12 scale or Marvel Select scale or those 6-inch figures, their detail is improving nowadays, but even just a couple of years ago, they were comic looking at. You couldn't tell who the actor or actress was that was being portrayed there. Obviously, you knew what figure it was. You knew you were holding a Captain America or a Tony Stark or whomever, because you would be familiar with that piece was that, but are just as no detail. And these are like believable. You know, I would imagine in proper lighting and proper situation and proper scaling, it'd be difficult to tell in some instances between whether you're looking at a figure or looking at a real person. You know, that's the beautiful thing about 1/6 scale. The bad thing about 1/6 scale is the size of the amount of real estate that they take up in order to display them. This guy, this Tony here, is probably one of the biggest offenders of real estate. I mean, to use him with his entry into the cave or the wine cellar, he takes up this much space, literally. It's like 18 inches across. That's how much area he's taking up in order to be able to display him in 1/6. And even this isn't truthfully to scale, as we were talking about earlier. This piece would be almost as big around as this piece in order for it to be true to scale. This piece here would have to be about this big in order to be true to scale, truthfully, which would make the outside diameter out to here, and then this plating out to here, and then the glass out to here, and now you're taking up 3 feet or so of real estate. So sometimes whenever they recreate it, it's more of a good representation of what the product really is. Sometimes it's dead on in regards to the accuracy and the scale of these pieces as they recreate them down to 1/6 scale. So that's why they're 12 inches. 6 foot tall would be what they would be in life size. They think when they decide to create actors' faces on statuettes versus not doing so, I kind of like both, but if they follow the actors, I want the best faces possible. That's kind of like, as I was talking about this piece, when this came out by Hot Toys, this is a Hot Toys figure, they did not include that head sculpt. It only came with the helmet. However, this is from Black Panther. This is Black Panther from Captain America Civil War. We specifically see him in the movie with his helmet off. There, we see that. It's not like, for instance, this Mark V didn't come with a head sculpt. I had to put a head sculpt in there. And some of the argument was, well, you really didn't see him in there. Yeah, he did. You watch him don the suit. So, of course, he's inside the armor. But there's some of the House Party Protocol figures where we'd never really seen him in it. Mark IX, for instance, is one of them. And however, speaking of Mark IX, they sold that as being the one that Pepper uses to kill out Adrian Killage. God, what is his name? Adrian? But it isn't the Mark IX she actually uses. It's the Mark 8 that she actually uses. They never released the Mark 8. But anyhow, the Mark 9, we never see Tony wearing the Mark 9. So, of course, that's why there's no head sculpt in there. But the Mark 5, you've obviously seen him wearing the Mark 5, but we don't get a head sculpt. So sometimes you don't get a head sculpt option. Sometimes, like a lot of War Machines, for instance, I've got the Punisher War Machine on order, waiting for that to be shipped to me. And comes with the Frank Castle from the video game series. However, currently, my opinion, the Netflix Punisher, Frank Castle, is a more recognizable figure that I would rather display. So the question comes about with the War Machine Punisher, do you display the Frank Castle from the video game series that they comes with that War Machine Punisher? Or do you use the Frank Castle from Netflix, which never was in the War Machine Punisher outfit? Or, what my opinion would be, keep the helmet on and don't even show a head sculpt in there and only have just the helmet. And I think that's what I would do because the helmet has the skull on it. So that would be the case for me in that instance. I think this one came with a head sculpt, this Black Panther did, but again, it just kept the head sculpt, the helmet on instead of putting the head sculpt on. Just was, in my opinion, better posed. So sometimes you get the option of using the head sculpt, sometimes you don't, and sometimes even if you do, you still go with the helmet instead of the head sculpt. I think all the Captain Americas, if I remember correctly, I think all of them come with a Steve Rogers head sculpt or the face mask, if you will. And I have my Infinity War Captain America without a helmet on, but I think that's how it came. But other than that, I think all of my Captain Americas are wearing their face mask because, it's almost like that's part of being Captain America is the face mask. But that's a decision that you go back and forth on. That's why I made so many of these interchangeable head sculpts. I ended up putting them in virtually as a piece would come out, as a House Party Protocol piece would come out, I would buy another head sculpt, I would buy a helmet, and then merge the two together and turn it into this. And it became a lot of work and a thankless work because you're spending another $40 to $60 on a helmet, another $40 to $60 on a head sculpt, and spending 40 hours on shaving it and carving it and cutting it and cracking open a faceplate that never was designed to be taken off in the first place, and then cleaning out an entire head sculpt, and you end up having almost $200 in that entire process of doing that. And it's all about the love at that point because you'll never be able to sell that for that because hell, that's the price of the entire figure back then. $200 in head sculpt and helmeted Tony, and $200 in a figure, you turn them into a $400 figure. Nowadays $400 for a figure doesn't seem all that outside of the realm, but man, there's $400 of the figure sitting right there with the custom head sculpt that I made. So that becomes another issue in regards to displaying the head or displaying the helmet. Which story are you trying to tell? And that's what we do in the collecting. We collect these because we want to look at them and be reminded of a scene or a movie or something that gives us joy and just makes us reflect back onto that. And that's why so many of them are in different poses or gathered in areas with other figures because of of who they belong to, or where they fit in. Or unlike, for instance, my Spider-Man shelf is just every Spider. All the Spider-Man and anyone who's Spider related is on the Spider-Man shelf, except for one Spider-Man up here with the Avengers, because he became an Avenger, and he was always a Reserve Avenger in the comics, but he became Avengers, and he became Avenger in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, more or less, with Captain America: Civil War. So I have him up here, and then it's like Loki. He's really not an Avenger, but he's like the god of mischief. So whatever benefits him is going to be whose side he's on at the time. Sometimes he's helping his brother, sometimes he's betraying his brother, because he's just mischievous. That's his nature. It's what he does, it's who he is. But he's up here on the Avengers shelf. So, does he really belong there? Who knows? Like, I had Hela up here when I had my Hela. I had her displayed up here too, only because I didn't have any other place to put her. But she was never really an Avenger. She was trouble from day one, truthfully. But the head sculpts, by the way, each one, so they have a sculptor that creates the head sculpt, and then they mass produce the head sculpts. Okay, but each head sculpt produced by Hot Toys is hand painted. So every one of these head sculpts, like this Sheree here that we were just talking about a little bit ago, is hand painted. So an artist actually paints her eyes and paints the face and paints the lips, and she is hand painted. So every one of these is a unique, true work of art in regards to the Hot Toys head sculpts. Every one of them are hand painted. You know, they're mass produced. There's a sculptor that sculpts it, then they mass produce the heads, but every head is hand painted. So if they make 200 or 1,000 or 8,000 pieces or however many they're making, each one of those head sculpts hand painted by one artist, or however many artists they have assigned to that head sculpt. Most time it's one. I have seen, I think, a couple of head sculpts that were done by two artists, the painting, but most time it's done by one artist. And imagine that. Imagine painting 1,000 head sculpts. Oh, jeez. So most of the figures are plastic or vinyl or some type of a PVC or something to that effect. But they started making the Iron Man figures die cast, and even then they're not entirely die cast. The entire figure is not metal, so there's a lot of plastic in here too. But the main parts are die cast. I think like the thighs. I think the chest. I don't remember what all pieces on him are die cast, but he is die cast compared to a full plastic piece. So there's a lot of metal in the Iron Man figures, but for the most part, they're plastic or vinyl or PVC or whatever it is that actual material is that they're crafted out of. So like he's all plastic, nothing die cast in the Black Panther. He's totally a regular figure, if you will, if you could call him that. We call him a regular figure. And I think these are plastic. I don't think any of these are die cast, even though the Mark 42 is a die cast figure. I think these pieces of the Mark 42 also are plastic. I don't remember, but so he's a plastic figure also. As although the Mark 42, which is this piece, is a die cast figure. And as I'm touching him, actually, I can tell that his calves, the lower section of his legs are die cast, and these are not. This is plastic, definite plastic, and I can tell because it's cooler. This guy's cool to touch because of the metal, and this one is warm to touch. Plastic doesn't retain the heat or cold like die cast pieces do. So I never even thought of that until just now to test them. I never even thought for 1 second that these pieces would be differently manufactured, but they sure are. They most certainly are. This is a die-cast figure, and it's another one that I cracked open the head on. He does not come with that open head sculpt there. I made that also, and he's to reflect the scene where Tony's putting him into the wine cellar, more or less, putting his toy away, and he retracts through the floor into the wine cellar, and the helmet is not there. The Mark 47 came with an open helmet, but other than that, you don't get an open helmet figure. My mouse is totally freaked out here. Find the chat again. I've lost all the chat. One second. Here we go. Question is this. Incredible. It gives a lot of value when actually a person have spent hours into painting. Exactly. Every head sculpt, every one of the head sculpts is hand painted, and they tell you that in the description. Each piece is specially hand painted. Each one is. So have you seen the Crazy Toys figures that look like Hot Toys? They're cheap, but wondering if you can spice it up with Hot Toys parts. No, you cannot. I have one Crazy Toys figure, and that's my Hulk over here, Avengers Hulk. I don't know if you can see him or not. He is not interchangeable. He is not Hot Toys swappable, and he is not very posable. So when I bought the Ultron Hulk, Age of Ultron Hulk, he came with two torsos, one set of legs. So I was thinking, get this Crazy Toy and put the torso on the Hot Toys on the Crazy Toy, and it doesn't work that way. Also, the Crazy Toy is not articulated, so there's not much articulation in Hulk in the first place. But let's get Hulk over here. You can articulate him. His knees are articulated, his ankles are articulated, his shoulders are articulated, unless you have the other torso, which doesn't. His hips are articulated. So in comparison now to the Crazy Toy Hulk, come on, Hulk, stand up for me, buddy. And then wiggled him when I took him off the shelf. So I got to get him back in the position. I don't want him falling over. The Crazy Toy Hulk, the ankles are not articulated. You can't move those. You know, he's not the same, more or less, in that regards. You can't separate this and put the Hot Toys torso on it. So I don't know if that's the case with all of them, but this Hulk, the Crazy Toys, is not swappable with a Hot Toys Hulk. I've tried to take them off and use these legs with my Ultron, Age of Ultron torso. It doesn't work. And he's not much posable. So he sits where he sits, and that's how he sits. But he was, gosh, like $55 or something. An absolute steal in that regards. And he works. His color's a little off compared to the Hot Toys or the MCU Hulk. He's a little more green, in my opinion, than he should be. Hulk is a little more yellow in him. So he's off in that regards, but he fills the spot. I still want a Hot Toys Avengers Hulk, but there's my Avengers Hulk, and he works. Like I said, though, his color's a little off. And he's not as high quality as the Hot Toys. The Hot Toys teeth on Hulk, oh man, they're dead on. It's amazing. But no, I'm not owning any other Crazy Toys. And it's so unfortunate that people would be tricked into buying a crazy toy, thinking that they're getting a hot toy. But if you're just using filler space, for instance, I want to do a setup of the land speeder, and I'd like to get 5 stormtroopers, and I'd love to have just filler stormtroopers. I don't need to have 5 $250, $300 stormtroopers standing around the land speeder. I really don't need that, but I want to have 5 of them there because I think that's how many they had in the movie scene in what the younger people call Episode 4, what I would just call Star Wars. When we see Luke and Ben and with C-3PO and R2-D2 on the land speeder, that's the scene I want to recreate because it's just the classic one. It's the one that everyone remembered, where he did the Jedi mind trick on the stormtroopers, and that's what I want to recreate with that. And if I could find some crazy toy stormtroopers for $50, oh heck yeah, for fact I would go that, because they are closely resembling to the quality that a Hot Toys is, but not really. It's not really there. It's still, from my understanding, a vinyl figure and not as articulated. Almost more of it's like a Power Pose series Hot Toys, which is limited articulations. So that's what you end up with. Right, little blue LEDs. How did I take the head sculpt out from inside? Dremel tool, drilled them all out, took a knife, popped them open, cut the faceplate off. I mean, it was really, you're literally destroying that. I mean, think about it for a minute. You've just spent $400 on something, and now you're taking it apart. It's definitely not something for the meek or someone who places so much to destroy it without recreating it. So you gotta, it takes a lot of nerve and purpose to get in there and do that. Every one that I've ever done on all the head sculpts, I didn't do it to my original head sculpt. I went and bought an extra head sculpt and paid the extra between, like I said, 40 and I think some of them were $90 just for another helmeted head sculpt, just to be able to tear it up. Because if all else went bad, I still had the original Hot Toys head sculpt that came with it. And of course, what I'm customizing is an original Hot Toys head sculpt, but I bought it in addition to, just to be able to tear it up and turn it into that. Same thing with the flame hands. A lot of people don't care for the flames on the figures. I think the flames have a place on some figures. So I have my Iron Man figures up there recreating the scene where they get to the Roxxon oil crane or whatever it is, and they're all lined up. I put flames under all those guys. I've glued the flames to the hands and the feet. So I didn't want to destroy the original hands and feet by putting glue on them, which could melt the piece or cause the paint to come off of the piece with this glue. So I would buy extra hands, extra feet, specifically just to glue these flames onto them, so that if I ever ended up destroying that in that process, I still had the original figure. So keep in mind, when you decide, or should you ever decide to customize these, it's a lot of popping and snapping and breaking, and it takes a lot of nerve to be cracking open a $400 figure and to customize it too, hopefully make it better. And I think I did with the head sculpts. I think I definitely made them better. Favorite top 3 Spider-Man suits? Okay. Well, let's see. I have any of the Spider-Man figures with those suits. Yeah, I do have all the current Spider-Man suits that I've made. I don't have any of the Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield suits yet. Would love to get some of those. Um, I bought the Bandai's and they're cheap. I have 2 of them. They're cheap, cheap, cheap. I mean, they don't look anything like the Hot Toys. They're bad. So I have 3 Stormtroopers. One is a Metacon, which I don't know what the relationship between Metacon and Sideshow is. It looks like the same figure. So I have one, so one high quality one, then I have two Bandai's, and they look, they're way out of scale and just flimsy and cheap, but they're background fillers. I would much rather have ones that look just like the Hot Toys, like Crazy Toys does, and so that's really would be the goal if I get them for the same price. But those Bandai's, they look cheap and they are cheap. So of the current Spider-Man that are available, taking into consideration also the ones that haven't been released but have been on pre-order, my top three would probably have to be Scarlet Spider, um, Iron Spider from Ultimate Spider-Man comic video game series, and the number three, I guess, would just have to be the Civil War Spider-Man, the regular suit. Those would have to be my top three of the current Spider-Man lineup. And yeah, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I went through all the Spider-Man suits that I own, and there's a new one that's announced now. Just was announced, I think, last week, of a new Spider-Man that's out there that'll be start being delivered next year. I think I don't remember when it was. Maybe 2022. I don't remember. It takes a long time for these figures to come out from when they're first released. I think the quickest I've ever seen a figure be delivered from the moment that it was released or announced was about 6 months. But most of them are about a year, however long it takes from the day when they first announce the figure is coming to the day that this figure actually gets delivered to your house. You're looking at about a year. But there's a new Spider-Man that was just announced. I think it was a week or so ago. That's still available for pre-order. I forget the name of the suit. It's the Hyper Velocity suit. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I don't. But it's got a really neat feature. You shine a UV light on it, and you see all the little pieces, a little honeycomb all around the whole suit, which is a neat feature. It looks really cool. And Spider-Man has always been my favorite character from way back in the day. So when I was a little guy, it was Superman and Batman that I read the comics on, and of course, the Adam West Batman was on television, and Christopher Reeves Superman was in the movies. So those were the characters that I was initially introduced to in the superhero world. So, and I think a lot of people have a Superman Batman connection. I think probably the majority of people probably have a Superman Batman connection out of all the superheroes. I think people who probably know very little to nothing about superheroes can point out Superman and Batman. I think if you were to show them somebody who knows very little or next to nothing to them, but they know of superheroes, if you were to show them a Superman figure, they would probably say, "Yeah, that's Superman," and they would probably be able to say, "Yeah, that's Batman." Um, I don't know if those same people would necessarily know who Spider-Man is. Um, you, I'm not saying you have to be an expert to know who Spider-Man is, but I don't think everybody instantly recognizes Spider-Man like Superman and Batman are. That's just the truth of it, in my opinion. Now, Spider-Man is Marvel's main character. Through the years, through time immortal, the number one moneymaker for Marvel has and always has been and is Spider-Man. Period. No matter how popular the X-Men may be, or Wolverine may be, or Deadpool may be, Spider-Man is their guy. He's the moneymaker. And when I discovered Spider-Man, he became my most relatable superhero because just an ordinary kid. Yeah, he was really smart, but went through all the awkwardness that every teenager goes through. So you can relate to that. And then he gets bit by a radioactive spider. So he had his genius level intelligence, which we all like to think we're smart. So it's not outside of the box to still relate to him in that regards because of his clumsiness and his willingness to fit in and always trying to just be a teenager, just grow up, which is what we all deal with. And so it made Spider-Man the most relatable superhero to me. And he wasn't born a superhero. He isn't a mutant where he became a superhero through some type of a metamorphosis or something along that line. He just got bit by a radioactive spider and all of a sudden was thrust with the huge responsibility of being a superhero and following along the story, his struggle to deny that and not have to do it, not didn't want to be a superhero, and then the classic advice from his uncle: with great power comes great responsibility, which has always made Spider-Man so relatable. So Spider-Man has always been my main character after that point when I discovered him as a young man to now. And now to be able to get all of these super Spider-Man characters, oh man, it's like dream come true. So when I discovered the Hot Toys a handful of years back, there were really no Spider-Man. They had made some Tobey Maguires, they made some Andrew Garfields, but they weren't new pieces. They were pieces you'd have to chase down. And I just wasn't in the mood to chase them down because they were more expensive than buying a brand new Hot Toys. So I started collecting the Iron Man figures right off the bat, and that turned into this huge collection of figures that they are. And so now that the Spider-Man are here, oh, give me them all. I end up having to chase down the older figures, and so the Andrew Garfield and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man are figures that I would love to chase down and add to the collection. So, especially because there's rumors and back talk of a potential crossover movie of Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire, which would be phenomenal if they could get those actors together in one movie, reprising their role as Spider-Man. That would just tie it all. That would tie it all in. That'd be great. That would be a wonderful thing. So that would be the ultimate dream, if you will, in that regards. There's a company that made the Venom. I'm not going to drag him out because he's behind a few other figures, but I discussed him a few weeks back. I think I discussed him on the Spider-Man one, and I don't remember who made him. He's called the Poison, was the name of it, by a third-party manufacturer, and he is not Venom from the movie Venom, but he's Venom from every comic incarnation that there's ever been of Venom. And he looks fantastic. Now, there's another third party company that made a Venom from the Venom movie. So neither one of these were made as officially licensed products through Hot Toys or whomever. These are third party companies, so they're not officially licensed products. But this Venom that was called the Poison, I think it was made by Too Cool. Sheesh. If you can get a hold of that, if you're a Venom fan, you would not be disappointed at all. Not at all. And yeah, Spider-Man is my number one. I would say probably now Spider-Man is more popular than Superman and Batman. That would not be an understatement. I think that's probably very true. Marvel, Marvel's rock and roll, right? It's always kind of been like that, The DC comics, DC comics always seem to happen in another world. You're always disconnected from them. Gotham and Metropolis and all these other places that really don't exist. Whereas Marvel comics happened in New York City, Chicago, San Francisco. It actually happened here, which made it even all the more relatable in regards to that. Marvel Comics did. Now they're on Earth 616. We're considered Earth Prime, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe Earth Prime there is Earth 616, which those of you who knew that in Spider-Man Far From Home, when the Mysterio character was explaining to Nick Fury about the multiverse, he claimed that they were on Earth 616, which is not true. And as soon as he said that, I was like, wait a minute, that's a lie. They're not on Earth 616. Earth 616 is the Marvel Prime comic universe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is what Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home and all of the MCU movies are on, is Earth 199999. That's the Earth that the Marvel Cinematic Universe exists on, not Earth 616. So I'm assuming it was a nod that they did that, because later we found out that it was a lie. that he really isn't from an alternate universe. He is from that Earth. So he was just making it up, sharing off a number as such. But it's interesting that he said that he was from. I think he said this was Earth 616 is what he said, and it's not. Marvel Cinematic Universe is Earth 199999, not Earth 616. Earth 616 is the mainstream Marvel Comics Earth. By the way, I did see the PS5 Spider-Man Miles Morales game trailer, and holy smokes, golly, look at the quality on that. Sheesh. Tobey Maguire. I think he did an incredible job also. I love the first two movies of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And because the idea of the multiverse has become more accepted with the Into the Spider-Verse that Miles Morales cartoon did and all the other realms of it, it makes it even all the more better. And that's why I look forward to an Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland cross-up. That'd be great. Because I the only problem I had with the very first Spider-Man, the 1999 or 2000 Spider-Man, or whenever it was that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man came out, was that his fluid was generated out of his body. It was it became a natural thing that shot out of him instead of 616 Spider-Man. It was a web shooters he had to have, and that was my only complaint in the first movie. I loved the origination story. I loved how he looked. I loved the suits. I loved all the actress that played Kirsten Dunst, who played Mary Jane. I enjoyed all of that. Spider-Man 3, they destroyed it for some insane reason. They did such a terrible job with that. But I enjoyed all that origination story. The only thing I didn't like was that the web shooting came out of his body instead of a web shooter. Andrew Garfield, I never really connected with him as much in The Amazing Spider-Man. And I think it's because Tobey did such a great job creating Spider-Man in the first place. And the CGI at that time was the first time that we believably seen Spider-Man swing through the streets of New York. Any other movie or any type of effect that was done before that always seemed really hokey. Now, looking back at that Spider-Man now, 20 years ago, you look at it and say, God, that really wasn't very good CGI. At the time, that was the best. That was the absolute best that there was. And it was so convincing 20 years ago to see that. Nowadays, you look at that and say, God, that looks hokey. Well, it didn't then. That was the top of the crust in regards to the quality and the ability of doing that. And so Tobey brought Spider-Man to life on the big screen, really brought him to life, made him believable. And so Tom Holland really grabbed that and went with it. And he did a great job bringing Spider-Man to life too. Again, different universe Spider-Man. I don't know what Earth Tobey's on. I don't know what Earth Andrew Garfield are on, but obviously those Spider-Men are different than Tom Holland's MCU Earth 199999 Spider-Man. So it was nice to see J. Jonah Jameson cross over into Far From Home, where he was up there slamming Spider-Man, and that's the same actor that played J. Jonah Jameson in the Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and that was great, excellent nod, and I'm so pleased that he was willing to do that, and that actor was willing to portray J. Jonah Jameson again, because he really brought J. Jonah alive. He really did a great job with that. Yeah, kids don't understand Superman and Batman now. I don't know what the deal is. Um, One of my associates, someone that I know on Facebook, had posted a post one day where he said that his child had said to him, um, "I understand Batman. I know why Batman is Batman. He's kind of got a vengeance thing on his mind." And he goes, "I understand Batman. I understand Wolverine. I understand why Wolverine is Wolverine." He says, "But I don't understand Superman. What's his motivation?" And that hurt me to the core to hear that a young kid doesn't get Superman. The whole purpose of Superman is doing what is right because it's the right thing to do.
People may use the term on Superman that he's a do-gooder. We truthfully all should be. We should all strive for the perfection that Superman worked towards always. Truth, justice, and the American way, or whatever way you want to stand behind. But truth and justice specifically would be what you should do. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. You shouldn't have to be motivated as revenge. You shouldn't have to be motivated because of greed. You shouldn't have to be motivated because you're trying to accomplish a goal that you want to make yourself richer or whatever. That shouldn't be your motivation. Your motivation should be to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Like, for instance, a filthy city street. How many times do you walk by and you see garbage on the street and you're wondering, who the hell's cleaning this up? Why aren't you? Why don't you just bend over and pick up that gosh darn paper chip bag that some, idiot threw on the ground and put it in a garbage can that you'll find probably with 50 or 100 feet of wherever you happen to be standing at the time. You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Don't be insensitive. When you finish your bag of chips, walk an extra 50 feet and put it in the garbage can. When you're pushing a shopping cart through the grocery store, you've pushed this shopping cart up and down every aisle in the grocery store. You go out to your car, you unload your groceries into your car, push the shopping cart over to the corral or back up to the front of the shopping store that you came out of. People just shove them right there in the middle of the street. They can't walk any further with this shopping cart, even though they've pushed it around the entire store. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Help out each other. Police each other. Police yourselves. That's what Superman does, because it's the right thing to do. And it hurts me to the core that this new generation doesn't get that. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equally. They're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what you should do. And you should give that pursuit of happiness, which truthfully means the personal betterment of yourself. Every one of us are given this right. Every human being on this planet is given this right to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And happiness is a self-betterment. It meant to improve yourself to a higher level. That's what we should be. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Simple as that. And why we aren't teaching this younger generation that, I have no earthly idea. It's beyond me. I don't understand it. I don't. It's crying shame. Bullethead and Toys Era. Thank you, Toys Mafia. Thank you. Beautiful. Yes. Bullethead did the poison, and Toys Era did the Venom from the Eddie Brock Venom movie. That's the two Venoms out there. Thank you very much. Talking about the killing of different characters, that's kind of like Spider-Man, for instance, would never intentionally kill somebody. If he ever killed anybody, it was totally by accident. Punisher is an anti-hero. He has no problem putting a bullet through anybody's head. They have different ways of enacting justice. Wolverine, all these ways of doing things. And I understand that that's the way the character is, and that's, kind of like back to what I was just ranting and raving on about Superman. Superman would never intentionally kill anybody because it's not the right thing to do. Truth and justice, right? Everyone is entitled to their day in court. He's not the judge. He's not Judge Dredd. He doesn't find you guilty and convict you and execute the sentence all at the same time. He's going to capture you and take you to court to have your day in court. And whereas Daredevil, for instance, is an attorney who's seeking those who have escaped outside of the law. So there's all these different superheroes that all have their own motivations, or anti-heroes, or borderline heroes. They may think they're a hero in their mind, but really they're even leaning towards being a bad guy, the way that they go about enacting their justice. So there's all these different people, and it just kind of blew my mind that this young person didn't understand why Superman was a good guy. He just didn't understand that. It just blows my mind. I know, right? You would have never believed that it would be believable seeing these characters that we see now in the movies. We actually believe that Iron Man's wearing an iron suit and flying around and shooting repulsor blasts. It's totally believable. Watching Spider-Man swing from a web, it's totally believable. And back in the day, I mean, it was always hokey. It was always hokey. Not because that was what they were going for, not because they were trying to make a campy, stupid movie that was just happened to be that was all the quality that was available then. They were doing the best that they could with what they had, and it was great to see them, but we never expected to see. I mean, it's like Jurassic Park. When Jurassic Park came out, and we're watching dinosaurs walk on the earth again, that was just unbelievable. Every other dinosaur movie before that, the claymation and whatever else, was just so hokey. Man, Jurassic Park came out. Dude, we were watching dinosaurs walking on the earth amongst us. Oh, man, that was so amazing. And that's the way it is with our superheroes now. When we watch them fly, we're actually watching them fly, you know? Yeah, all hope is lost. Yep. Superman is, yeah, and it's supposed to be which nobody wants to portray anymore, and it's a crying shame. Superman is always Superman. I mean, Spider Man's my guy, but I respect and love Superman and Batman. I always will, and Superman always is truth, justice, doing what is right because it's the right thing to do. George Reeves, oh my God, you're going way back now with Superman, right? Jeez, way back in the day. Superman really was the first. Yep, in my opinion, I agree. Yeah, 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 Zod, right? I'm with you. Oh, jeez. Superman, right? 50 Superman. Superman was a jerk to Lois, cheating with Laura. Oh, yeah. Jeez. I would have no problem owning a Superman figure, and I wouldn't care whether it's Christopher Reeves or, um, gosh, I can't remember the name of the guy who's portraying Superman now. Wouldn't matter. It's Superman. Superman is Superman, and I just have to limit who it is that I collect and what figures I'm collecting, because they are so expensive and take up so much realty that I just am so afraid if I start collecting the DC figures, I'll be having. Okay, so I got the Superman. Well, now I can get a Batman. Oh, I have to have a Wonder Woman. Oh well, if I'm getting Wonder Woman, I might as well get Aquaman. Well, geez, if I got Aquaman, I might as well get the Flash. And next thing you know, I've got a whole wall of nothing but DC characters as well, because one just snowballs into the next. The Star Wars the same way. I started collecting the Astromechs because love R2D2. I've always loved R2D2. And then I got the C3POs and the BB-8s, which turned into Ray and the Stormtroopers and the Land Speeder now. And I'm going to have to track down a Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it just continues and grows and grows and grows and grows. And the same token, still trying to keep up with my Marvel line, which is so difficult to do, especially when there's so many figures that are supposed to be coming out, which haven't come out yet, and I'm afraid they're going to hit my bank all at the same time, and then I'm going to have to sell a car in order to buy in order to buy figures. It's crazy, man. But I would love a Superman on the shelf, because he really is kind of like how you'd said. He's the grandfather of all superheroes. He really is. It really is. Henry Cavill. Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, is he? He's a huge nerd, huh? I thought he looked like a good Superman. And truthfully, it's almost like every generation has their Superman. Okay, so the Superman, obviously, I know I knew of George Reeves, the black and white Superman. Um, Obviously, Christopher Reeves, the movie Superman. Uh, then there was the next one that came about for the most part was uh, the Adventures of Lois and Clark. What the hell was his name? That really is the Superman that I kind of connected the most with, truthfully. I cannot remember the actor's name that portrayed Superman in that television series, The Adventures of Lois and Clark. And then after that, we had Smallville, and then we had the Superman movies. So it's like almost every generation has a Superman. And God, what is his name? The Superman from Lois and Clark, truthfully, is the Superman I connected to the most. I enjoyed Christopher Reeves. I knew of George Reeves. I've seen some of the black and white ones, and but really, the Adventures of Lois Clark. Um, that's my, if you will, Superman. And I've never seen that figure anywhere. Blows blows the torch out. They've been carrying the flame for all these miles from Greece to wherever the Olympics is being held, and he blows out the torch. Oh, that's funny. I think I remember seeing that too. They always do a good job making the Superman actors look like Superman as we remember. It's kind of why I have a problem with the new Batman, the guy from Twilight series. I'm not so sure he looks very much like Batman. Um, Val Kilmer was an interesting choice. George Clooney was an interesting Batman choice. Um, you know, did they really look like Batman? Normally, it's the jaw that they're looking for, that chin, the very defined Batman chin is what you have to have in order to be Batman. Dean Cain, yep, that's my Superman, and the Lois from that. What was her name? Uh, that's my Batman, Superman, and I don't believe I've ever seen a Superman character from that. And I don't remember much of him wearing the Superman suit because it really was the adventures of Lois and Clark. It really was. It really wasn't a Superman show. You didn't see Superman always wearing the suit. One of my favorite episodes of that was when they had a guy traveling back in time to try to stop Superman from doing something in the future, and they figured he would just kill Superman or kill Lois. I forget whatever it was, and I forget the name of the actor that was playing the bad guy. It was so classic. They had captured Lois Lane, and he's sitting there talking to him, and talking to her. He's from the future. He's sitting talking to Lois Lane, and he says to her, he says, one thing we've always tried to figure out from the future, and now that I'm here with you, I would like to ask you directly, maybe you can explain to me, how is it that you could never figure out that Clark Kent is Superman? I mean, really, were you intergalactically stupid? That's what he asked her. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he puts on the glasses, he literally does one of these things, and it's so true. He's like, I'm Clark Kent. I'm Superman. I'm Clark Kent. I'm Superman. Really? You could never figure that out? And it was so funny when she got rescued by Dean Cain, by Lois, by Clark. Um, she tells him that she knew he was Superman all along, but she didn't. Because the guy was like, you mean to tell me I get to reveal this to you? You haven't figured it out yet? I'm the one that actually gets to ruin your life and tell you that Superman is Clark Kent. And later on, when Clark rescues her, she reveals that to him that she knew all along, which she didn't. And she says, "What did you think? I was intergalactically stupid?" It was so classic. That whole episode was so perfect. because that's the big joke. How does nobody understand that just some glasses separate you, Clark Kent, from Superman? It's great. So funny. Really? Interesting. I didn't know that. So, holy cow, we went 2.5 hours talking about this and that and whatever else. I'm so glad to have you guys with me every week. It's nice to share with you and talk about our hobby and catch up on superheroes and bitch about this and complain about that and uplift everyone. I hope you all get something out of this enjoyable. I appreciate every one of you. I'm going to wrap this up. I have no idea what I'm going to do next week. One of the things I've theorized is just take the camera and just film these in 4K and then premiere it next Saturday. Might do that. That way we can still chat as we watch the video. So I'd like to get all these on 4K for you. But I definitely haven't heard on my War Machine. I hope he's coming soon. My Punisher War Machine. Not heard anything on any of that. But I think I'm going to wrap this up. It's a spoof on YouTube on Dark Knight Batman with Superman. And they bring it up all. Batman goes, who you base on? Clark's that guy from Newsies. Bad man. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Subscribe, like, share, let everyone know where they can go for Wednesday Scale News and Reviews. Subscribe to Patreon. Help me out. Send me $1. Like I said, you're not making or breaking me, but it's nice to know that you care enough to tell me that I'm doing a good enough job that I'm worth a tip. And even only $1 a month helps. Got nothing to give you other than just continuing on with the content and offering the video up here, spending my time with you guys. And I love every one of you. And I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Y'all be safe and take care. Peace.